listen. Practice, speak. Practice makes you perfect.
Have you ever been in a conversation, maybe a team meeting, could be a negotiation with a client, or even just, talking with family or friends, and things suddenly get intense?
Oh, yeah.
Words start flying, the tension just ramps up, and bam, before you know it, you feel totally caught off guard.
Completely ambushed.
Yeah, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, or you get that really strong urge to just lash out, like hit back with some sharp comeback. We've all been there, I think, wishing we had that perfect, eloquent zinger to just shut things down or, dominate the argument.
That perfect movie line.
Exactly. But what if you could handle those moments with real poise, real power, and actually turn what feels like an attack into a chance for, clear, effective communication, especially, and this is key, in a professional setting?
That's such a common thing, that feeling of being cornered. And you're absolutely right. Our first instinct, that emotional reaction, it's often the exact opposite of what we actually want to achieve.
Right.
We want clarity, respect, maybe a resolution, not just winning. We tend to jump into being defensive, but it's usually not the most helpful kind of defense. Presenting a big proposal, negotiating a complex deal, giving or getting feedback in a meeting, even just writing an email response to something difficult. The ability to defend your point clearly, calmly, with precision, using what we might call good business English strategies. It's absolutely vital.
It really can define your professional reputation, can't it?
Absolutely. It impacts your career path, the outcomes you get. It's huge.
Okay, so we've gathered a whole stack of sources for this deep dive, articles, research, practical insights, and our mission today is simple. Pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from all this material. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, to being really well-informed on this crucial skill. And we're talking some surprising facts, I think, about psychology and conflict, some really powerful analogies that'll stick with you, and most importantly, practical, actionable strategies you can use right away.
Yeah, things you can actually do.
Exactly. To make you a more effective, more confident, more respected communicator, wherever you are, but especially in those important professional business interactions.
And our goal is definitely to give you a toolkit that's not just theory, right? It needs to be immediately actionable. These aren't just concepts to understand intellectually.
Right.
They're skills you need to practice, to integrate, so you can really change how you handle those tough conversations and come out the other side with your composure and your goals still intact.
Okay, so let me ask you, the listener. When you hear that phrase, defend yourself in an argument, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it that sharp comeback, that witty retort meant to silence the other person? Or maybe something more, I don't know, aggressive, a verbal counterpunch?
Yeah, what's that first image?
Because we're about to unpack why those gut reactions might actually be really counterproductive, and then we'll reveal a much more effective and, honestly, a much more empowering way forward. All right, let's start digging in. Okay, first things first. Let's tackle some really common myths, some misconceptions about what defending yourself actually means when words start flying. The biggest one, maybe, is what I kind of think of as the clapback trap.
It's so tempting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That idea, when we ask people, what does defending yourself look like? The answer is almost always about landing that perfect zinger.
Yeah.
Or that eloquent, poetic comeback. Something so sharp it just makes the other person melt, leaves them speechless. The popular idea, from movies or just wishful thinking, is that the win comes from that one perfect line.
Totally. That image of someone just stunned, completely taken apart by your brilliant words. It's incredibly tempting to go for that emotional punch, right? To immediately throw a punch back with words as soon as you feel attacked.
It's primal.
It is.
Yeah.
That urge to retaliate, to match their energy, or maybe even one-up them, it's so strong, almost a reflex. But what's the real downside? What's the cost of acting on that impulse?
And this is where the analogy of a physical fight, like boxing or maybe martial arts sparring, really helps. Our sources bring this up. If you find yourself just swinging wildly with your words.
Flailing around.
Exactly. Driven purely by emotion, by that need to hit back, that is almost always, and this is a quote, a dead giveaway that you're probably going to lose. It's a tell.
I can totally see that. Someone just losing their cool, losing their balance, leaving themselves wide open. So what kind of damage are we talking about here in a communication context? Not physical damage, obviously.
Right. When you swing wildly like that, reacting with uncontrolled emotion, you open yourself up to a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Communication damage. It makes you look exposed, vulnerable, and frankly, pretty unprofessional.
Yeah, you lose credibility.
Totally. You might say things you regret later, which can damage relationships, break trust, lower your credibility. And in the end, reacting like that only adds more damage to you.
Yeah.
Because you're losing control not just of the conversation, but of yourself, your composure, your reputation.
Like that boxer losing their form, becoming an easy target.
Precisely. In business communication, that translates to looking erratic, emotional, maybe even incompetent. Think about a manager just losing it in front of their team.
Oof.
Or a salesperson snapping at a client. The long-term fallout is way worse than any split-second satisfaction you might get from lashing out.
Okay, so if defense isn't about landing that verbal knockout blow, if it's not about that wild swinging, what is the real effective core of defense in communication? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah, this is the mind shift. What's fascinating, and maybe a bit counterintuitive, is that defending yourself is not about throwing a punch back at all. It's not aggression. Instead, it's really about redirecting their force and responding with control.
Redirecting their force.
Yeah, it changes the whole game. It's not about being aggressive or even obviously defensive. It's about being strategically responsive.
Okay, that sounds a lot like that be like water idea from martial arts, right? That jujitsu principle of using somebody's own force against them.
Exactly.
So instead of meeting their punch head on with your own, you're not just dodging, you're actively moving it out of the way. You're redirecting their force without you having to go on the offensive. And crucially, doing it all without you ever being off-centered, off your ground. You keep your balance.
This be like water idea is incredibly potent. And it applies so well in a professional business context.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You're giving a big presentation, maybe to the board, and some senior exec starts aggressively picking apart your method, maybe even questioning your competence.
Oh, the nightmare scenario.
Right. So instead of instantly getting defensive, listing all the reasons you're right, you could, like water, redirect that criticism. Maybe you absorb what's useful. Perhaps there's a tiny grain of truth in their challenge that could actually make your next presentation stronger.
Okay.
But you actively block what's unfair, what's purely emotional, and you just let the rest pass. You make a choice. Like the source says so well, I don't have to catch it just because you threw it at me. I can just let it go. I can just step out of the way.
Yeah.
This keeps you looking professional, composed, and it lets you separate useful feedback from just noise. It's about active filtering.
That is a huge mental shift. It's about deciding what's actually worth engaging with and what's just static. Or someone else's emotional baggage. And it makes me think immediately about the danger of overreacting. That seems like the fastest way to lose your center, break that water flow.
Exactly right. Overreacting is dangerous for a few reasons. One, it wastes your energy, which you don't have an unlimited supply of.
Sure.
And two, as we said, it opens you up to real damage. Our sources have this great 3 versus 11 analogy.
Okay, what's that?
Imagine someone comes at you with an intensity level of 3. Maybe it's a slightly annoyed comment, a minor criticism, a sarcastic remark in an email. If you then respond at an 11...
Full blast.
Yeah, full blast. An explosive emotional reaction, an aggressive counterattack because you feel you need to defeat them, well, it's only going to make yourself look bad.
Right, because you've escalated way out of proportion.
Precisely. The focus instantly shifts. It's no longer about their initial comment. It's about your massive overreaction. In business, that can destroy trust fast, make people respect you less, maybe even lead to formal HR issues.
Yeah.
It signals a lack of emotional intelligence, basically, which is pretty critical, especially in leadership.
So we're talking about staying grounded, choosing your battles carefully, being really strategic, and realizing you don't have to catch every ball thrown your way, let alone throw it back harder. It sounds like developing a real communication superpower, especially for those high-pressure work situations.
It really is a superpower. And this skill, this communication advantage, it's built on 3 core strategies, all linked together. First, we'll get into how you can hold your line when defending yourself, how to stay centered, stay in control.
Okay.
Second, we'll look at how to strategically redirect their tone, influencing the conversation's dynamic without trying to directly control them. And finally, we'll give you the actual tools for how to exit the conversation with control, making sure you protect your peace and your professionalism. These 3 pillars are absolutely essential for anyone wanting to master effective communication, especially when dealing with, business English nuances and tricky professional interactions.
Got it. They're like the new operating manual for verbal self-defense.
Exactly. Your new manual.
Okay, let's dive into strategy number 1 then, holding your line. And this is where we start with something that sounds almost too simple, something easily overlooked, but it's fundamental. Your breath.
Yeah, it sounds not all that fun, as one source puts it, right? Just breathe. But starting with your breath gives you an immediate actual sense of control. It's not just, woo-woo stuff. Conscious breathing is a physiological tool to regulate your own emotions.
How does that work exactly?
Well, when we feel attacked or under pressure, our fight or flight system kicks in, right?
Yeah.
The sympathetic nervous system. Our breathing gets shallow, fast, heart rate goes up.
Yeah, you feel keyed up.
Exactly. And that just fuels the emotional, often aggressive response. Taking a deliberate, deep breath interrupts that whole physiological cascade. It hits the pause button internally.
It's amazing how much just breathing differently can stop you from getting so worked up. So by starting with your breath, you're calming yourself down, stopping your escalation. But you mentioned it also affects the other person.
Yes, because you're creating a pause. That brief moment of silence where you're just breathing consciously, it gives them a chance to regulate their emotions too. It creates this little window for de-escalation.
Ah, interesting.
The source even gives this example. Sometimes if someone says something really offensive and you just pause, take a breath, give it a beat, they might actually say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Without you even saying anything back.
Exactly. They realize they went too far in that brief moment of quiet. That beat of silence, that pause filled only by your conscious breath, it's incredibly powerful. Especially in a professional setting. Imagine a heated client call, a tense negotiation.
Yeah.
A short, deliberate pause from you can often cool things down for everyone involved. It stops that knee-jerk emotional reaction on both sides. It opens up space for a more productive conversation, moving from just reacting to actually thinking about your response. The guiding principle here, and it's a great one, is let your breath be the first word that you say.
Let your breath be the first word. I really like that. Simple but profound. Okay, so breath is foundational. Moving on from that, the next powerful way to hold your line is by staying centered using strategic questions.
Right.
Our instinct, like we said, when attacked verbally is often to punch them in the mouth with our own words, an aggressive comeback. But this strategy says use questions instead. Why is that so much better?
It's basically a deflection technique. It goes back to that be like water idea. Instead of taking their verbal punch straight on, you redirect it using a question. And one of the most powerful ways to do this is with the did you mean phrasing.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Let's say a colleague makes a really dismissive comment about your project in front of others. Or maybe a boss subtly tries to take credit for your work in a team meeting.
Yes.
Instead of jumping in to defend yourself immediately, you could ask calmly, did you mean for that comment to sound rude? Or did you mean to omit my name when you were talking about the success of that project? Or even, did you intend to embarrass me in front of everyone with that remark?
Wow, okay. Those questions really cut through the noise. They're not phrased like accusations, but they absolutely demand clarity and make the person accountable. I can totally see using those in a business situation.
Yeah.
Like if you get an email that feels kind of passive-aggressive or accusatory, instead of firing back an equally charged email, you could reply, did you mean to imply that I missed the deadline? Or maybe, could you clarify if your feedback was intended as a direct critique of my work, or was it more of a general point? It forces them to either own their statement or maybe rethink it.
Exactly right. The beauty of these questions is they toss a ball right back into their court, but without you having to absorb their aggression. Other really good ones are things like, how does that make you feel when you say that to me?
Turning the mirror on them.
Totally. Or, I'm surprised you said that out loud. Or, did you intend to say that out loud? The key thing is that using questions is being like water. You're not taking what they said and throwing it right back in their face. No, you're using a question to take what they said and throw it right back at them without it ever touching you. You stay composed, but you force them to confront their own words.
That's brilliant. It's like you're deflecting their negative energy, not soaking it up and then making them deal with it. And it seems like it has two benefits, right? It provides accountability, but also maybe a chance for grace.
Exactly. Two key benefits. First, it gives them the chance to double down. They have to decide, is that really what I meant? Do I stand by it? They either own their potentially aggressive statement, confirming their intent, or
Not to be backtrack.
Right, which leads to the second benefit. Very often it offers a sense of grace. It gives them a chance to clarify it, change it, or adjust it. A lot of times, people realize their words landed harsher than they meant, or maybe they just weren't thinking. So they back down or rephrase. It creates a path for de-escalation instead of just more conflict, and all while you stay calm and hold your position.
Okay, so use questions. That's your first move after using your breath. And speaking of breath, that seems crucial for the third point under holding your line, controlling the pace of the argument. This feels like it links right back to that inner control.
It's absolutely fundamental for keeping your ground. The natural tendency, when someone challenges you, is to feel this huge pressure to respond instantly. You got to have that quick comeback.
Yeah, the witty retort.
Right. But by consciously continuing to breathe slowly, deliberately, you're signaling, I don't have to play at your speed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that instant clapback we talked about.
So you're saying you can actually just take a moment. I mean, the source literally says you can take 5 seconds, you can take 10 seconds. Heck, you can take half the day, the whole day to say, I'm going to think about my response.
Yes.
That feels incredibly liberating. Like you're not a puppet on their strings, forced to react immediately, especially at work where a rushed response could be really damaging.
Precisely. This is such a valuable principle in high-stakes situations. Business negotiations, critical client feedback, complex internal disputes. A measured, thoughtful response, even if it takes a beat, is worth so much more than a rushed, emotional one you might regret 5 minutes later. Think about the 3 Mississippi technique. They apparently use this in legal settings, like depositions or cross-examinations.
Okay.
In those situations, every single word counts, and staying composed is everything. So lawyers are trained to take that tiny internal pause, just silently counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi before answering. That small pause has given you a chance to kind of relax yourself, and that controls the pace of the whole exchange.
Wow, just 3 seconds.
It's subtle, but it's a really powerful way to assert control without being aggressive or confrontational. It just slows everything down, gives you that crucial moment to think.
That 3 Mississippi rule is fantastic. It literally gives you a physical and mental beat to compose yourself and process.
Okay, so what's the core truth here? The big takeaway about controlling the pace?
The fundamental truth, the one we often forget when we're under fire, is this. Nobody can make you say anything that you don't want to say. Nobody can force you to speak when they want you to speak. You get to control that.
That really empowers you, the listener, to realize that your words, and crucially your timing, are yours alone to manage, especially in a business English context where maybe feeling assertive can be tricky sometimes. This deliberate control over your pace and when you respond is a huge demonstration of confidence, professionalism, and strategic thinking.
Yeah.
You are the conductor of your own communication symphony, not just playing someone else's tune.
Okay, we've got holding your line down, breath, strategic questions, controlling the pace, staying centered. Now, let's move to strategy number 2. Redirecting their tone. And this is interesting. It's not about trying to perfect your tone necessarily, though that's good too.
Right.
But about responding in a way that subtly shifts their approach, changes the whole vibe of the conversation.
Exactly. The focus isn't on trying to dictate what they do because, let's face it, we can't really control another person's behavior.
Right.
Instead, it's about controlling how we're going to respond to what they're saying. And that response, done strategically, can indirectly but very powerfully influence their tone. It's about refusing to let their high-volume emotional delivery set the terms of engagement. You set the standard, regardless of where they're at emotionally.
Okay, and the first really powerful tool for this is something called point to your rule. I love this analogy they use about having a manual for how you communicate.
Yeah, like a personal code of conduct.
Right. Instead of just giving other people a remote control to push your emotional buttons, you're setting boundaries proactively almost before they even try to cross them.
It's incredibly effective because it immediately lifts the conversation. It stops being a personal tit for tat and becomes a discussion about standards, about principles. By saying something like, that's below my standard for response, or maybe more commonly, that's below my standard of respect, you instantly create a professional boundary.
Using the word standard.
Yes. Using the word standard is key.
Yeah.
It immediately applies that level of expectation. You've just communicated clearly but calmly, look, I have a standard for how I operate and the way you're behaving right now. It falls outside of that.
So you're basically saying your current approach doesn't meet my minimum requirement for a productive discussion. But how do you say that without sounding, I don't know, preachy or condescending? Especially if it's your boss or a really difficult client. It feels like a tricky line to walk.
It definitely is. And the key is all in the delivery. You have to maintain that calm, controlled tone we talked about earlier. Speak factually, not emotionally. You're not telling them off. You're stating a boundary.
Okay.
So with the superior, maybe you frame it slightly differently. I really value open discussion, and my standard for productive dialogue is that we both maintain a respectful tone. Can we perhaps adjust how we're speaking so we can focus on the objective?
Ah, collaborative framing.
Exactly. With a peer, maybe it's simpler. Look, I'm not going to engage with personal attacks. My standard is to discuss the facts and ideas respectfully. Either way, it instantly projects credibility and control and poise and calmness and clarity. It shows you're not just reacting emotionally, you have principles guiding how you engage. That's huge for maintaining decorum and authority in any professional space.
Okay, that makes sense. Following that, we have gatekeeping your peace, which isn't about like hiding information or being closed off.
No.
But about being, as the source says, the bouncer of your own peace of mind, protecting yourself from toxic stuff coming in.
It's about making a conscious choice about what information, what kind of tone, what level of aggression you will or will not allow into your mental space, your emotional space. This is where those really strong I don't statements become your tools. Like what? Like, I don't accept, I don't allow, or I don't permit. These are your gatekeeping words, your bouncer words they define. What are you not going to let in? Think of it like setting the entry requirements for your personal and professional sphere. What kind of interactions get past the velvet rope?
Okay, so it's like your personal communication manual, your rule book, has these really specific rules. Like, hey, if you flip to page 83, subsection B, line A, you'll see, I don't respond to that volume, or I don't accept that tone.
Exactly.
And the key, apparently, is to talk about these rules as if you're talking about the rules to a game. No apology, no hesitation. Does that mean you never bend? Is there any flexibility?
It means you communicate your rules clearly and, crucially, consistently. That actually makes things predictable for other people. You're just stating your operating procedures. There's no need for a timid, I'm really sorry, but I don't usually allow people to. No, it's just, this is how I operate. Yeah. I don't permit name-calling in professional discussions, or I don't allow myself to be constantly interrupted when I'm trying to share important information.
Firm?
That firm, unapologetic stance is vital for clear, effective business communication. It sets a precedent for how people will interact with you later. It's not about being rigid for the sake of it. It's about having a baseline of respect that you consistently uphold. It creates psychological safety for yourself.
Okay. Next up for redirecting their tone. Acknowledge the shift, but, and this is critical, maintain your ground. So you see where they are. Maybe they're at 11 on the intensity scale.
Right.
While you firmly state, okay, but I'm going to stay at a 3. You're noticing their state, but you're not mirroring it.
This is all about disengaging from their emotional escalation while staying totally present and grounded yourself. A classic phrase for this, a really effective one, is simply, I'm here to talk, not be talked over.
Simple and direct.
But the absolute must, the crucial part people often miss, is that you have to stay at that 3. You cannot raise your voice to match theirs. In fact, our sources suggest maybe even going even lower with your volume. Force them to lean in, metaphorically speaking, to actually hear you.
Wait, really? So if someone is yelling, say, I am here to talk, not be talked over, you're saying go even quieter, like speak slowly and softly. I am here to talk, not be talked over.
Yes.
The difference in perceived power there is massive. It feels totally counterintuitive, though. Go softer when they go louder.
It is counterintuitive, but it's incredibly effective. When you lower your voice, slow down your words, you're not just showing amazing self-control. You are also signaling to the other person that they are not a threat to you. Their behavior is not a threat to you. You're basically saying non-verbally, you do you. Go ahead, be an 11. I'm staying right here at my calm, controlled 3, regardless. And what you'll find, time and time again, is that the people who truly want a conversation will slowly inch their way towards you. They'll start matching your tone. They'll have a conversation much closer to 3 than you want to be at 11.
Wow.
You draw them into your controlled, respectful space instead of getting sucked into their chaos. It's like a powerful psychological anchor.
That is a masterful way to bring someone back down, almost compelling them to meet you where you are, instead of you chasing after them emotionally. Okay, and for times when you need something quick, maybe in a fast meeting or a quick exchange, the sources give us some really neat phrases for tone redirection. Great for business English moments. My favorite might be the simple question, are we arguing?
That's a brilliant one.
Yeah.
Deceptively simple. Almost every time you ask that, calmly, directly, Are we arguing right now? Most people, hearing that, they pause. They instinctively say, no, 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 I'm just having a conversation.
Right.
Which gives you the perfect, totally non-confrontational opening to reply, great, let's keep a conversation then. Boom. It resets the whole dynamic, reframes the interaction from conflict back to dialogue.
Yeah, the source had that funny anecdote about the 7-year-old kid proudly saying, yes, I am arguing.
Yeah, kids are different. But with adults, it almost always makes them recalibrate. Imagine a tense team meeting. Emotions are high. Asking that question can be an instant circuit breaker, pulls everyone back to the actual task.
That's gold. Diffuses tension, but you don't give up any ground. Another one that really jumped out, especially for dealing with maybe manipulative types or when facts get twisted, is the phrase, I do not imagine facts.
Ooh, that's a strong one. Concise, powerful. It's great against gaslighting type of behavior or toxic personalities, or honestly, just anytime someone is distorting reality or making claims with zero evidence, it draws a very clear, unarguable line in the sand.
What's the line?
The line is, I'm not going to argue about feelings or interpretations right now. I'm good with arguing the facts. It forces the conversation back to objective reality, stops it from spiraling into subjective drama. This is so important in data-driven business talks, legal stuff, any professional setting where emotional appeals can just derail everything. It basically says, show me the proof. Let's stick to what's verifiable.
Love it. Okay, and one last quick phrase for setting boundaries specifically around behavior. I'll respond to your words, not your behavior.
Yeah, and this is a very quick way to say, hey, look, your behavior is getting out of line. Your tone, you're interrupting, whatever it is. If you want to come back to the conversation with me, using your words respectfully, I'll still be here, but I'm not engaging with disrespectful actions. It keeps things professional, but sets a clear boundary. You're inviting them back to a productive discussion, but only on your terms of respect. You're not tolerating yelling, interrupting, personal jabs. It neatly separates the message, which you might be willing to discuss, from the problematic delivery, which you won't accept, holds them accountable for their conduct, but keeps the door open if they choose to walk through it respectfully.
Okay, we've covered holding your line, staying centered. We've covered redirecting their tone, influencing the dynamic. Now, for our third and final strategy, exiting with control. Because sometimes, let's be honest, the smartest move, the most strategic choice, is knowing when and, crucially, how to walk away. Gracefully, but firmly.
This strategy really drives home that a controlled exit isn't weakness. It's not avoidance necessarily. It's often a sign of huge personal strength and really smart strategic thinking. It protects your energy, your sanity, your professional image. And the first, maybe most direct way to do this is to simply claim it. An assertive, clear departure.
Okay, so claim it instead of like storming off dramatically or making a big emotional fuss.
Right. No door slamming.
You just state your intention clearly, calmly. You tell the person, I'm going to leave this conversation now, and then you actually do it. Or maybe, I need to end this conversation. It sounds like this is the ultimate boundary enforcement, right?
It absolutely is. It's the final boundary delivered with poise. You might say, for example, I don't accept the way you're treating me, or I don't accept the way you're speaking to me right now. If you continue to speak to me like that, this conversation is over. The power isn't in the emotion. It's in the controlled, almost surgical assertion. It's a statement of self-respect, clear communication. Leaves zero room for doubt. This kind of controlled exit is a real sign of strength in any professional setting. It shows you're committed to respectful communication, even if that means ending the current exchange.
It feels so much more powerful than the things we sometimes do instinctively, like hanging up the phone abruptly or saying, right, I've had enough, and then storming out.
Exactly.
Those things, while maybe understandable emotionally, just signal you've lost control. The key here is controlled exit. Maintaining your dignity. And you mentioned following through. That sounds absolutely vital for this to work. For credibility.
It is non-negotiable. Credibility, especially at work, relies entirely on that follow-through. If you say, I'm leaving this conversation, you have to leave. If you say, I'm ending this call, you end it.
No hesitation.
No hesitation. This reinforces that your words have weight, that you mean what you say, and that you are genuinely in control of your actions and your boundaries. If you don't follow through, your statement just becomes an empty threat. It completely undermines your authority, makes it harder to set boundaries next time. People learn they can just push past your words because they don't mean anything.
Okay, so claim it is the direct approach. Next up, if things are getting really heated, especially if both people are escalating, you can choose to postpone it. This is for those moments when everyone's in what the source calls ignition mode.
Precisely. If a discussion just turns into a yelling match, where both of you are ramping up and yelling, that's a giant red flag.
Yeah.
It signals that something is fundamentally off.
Yeah, no good is coming from this.
Zero productive communication is happening. Both people are probably deep in fight or flight mode. The source uses a great analogy. It's like a tired baseball pitcher just throwing wild pitches.
Yeah.
You've both lost control of the ball, or in this case, the conversation. Continuing when you're both like that, it's pointless. Actually, it's probably damaging.
Okay, so postponing gives both people a chance to regulate. You're deliberately creating space, creating time for tempers to cool, for rational thought to kick back in. What are some good ways to phrase that? How do you suggest postponing gracefully so it doesn't sound like you're just running away?
You can offer phrases like, look, I'm willing to come back to this discussion later, maybe once we've both had a chance to cool off. Or, can we take a break? Maybe for an hour. And then revisit this with clearer heads. The key is how you frame it.
How so?
Frame it around your need for clarity and productive discussion, not just escape. You could even say quite openly, you know what, I need about an hour. I can tell I'm not really ready for this conversation right now, and I know I'll be much better, much more clear-headed and constructive if we take a break.
And the source claims nobody's going to say no to that, which makes sense, right? Who's going to argue with someone wanting to be more clear-headed and productive for a discussion?
Exactly. It's a mature, self-aware response. It's a fantastic tactic for cooling down business conflicts and making sure that when you do come back together, the discussion is actually productive, not just round two of the argument.
Yeah.
It's about a strategic pause and then re-engagement, not just bailing on the conversation altogether. You're not saying no to talking about the issue. You're saying not right now, not like this.
Yeah.
It shows maturity, commitment to actually resolving things, not just winning the moment. That's a real hallmark of effective leadership, especially in complex situations.
Okay. And the final way to exit with control, and with a very firm, I'm not going there stance. This feels like a really strong, almost absolute boundary.
It is. And it's a crucial defense, especially against manipulative tactics, maybe circular arguments that go nowhere, or attempts to bait you into some irrelevant or totally unproductive sidetrack. The source mentions this is particularly useful in high-stakes settings, like in litigation, where maybe an opposing attorney is making some type of comment or trying to bait me into reacting or going down a rabbit hole. It signals immediate total disengagement from those dead-end paths.
So you just say, I'm not going there. It's like saying, nope, not even turning onto that road, not even pulling off the highway for that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that funny, not going to stop at Buc-ee's analogy.
Yeah, for those who know Buc-ee's.
It paints a picture of complete disengagement, like that particular detour, not on my travel plan today.
That is exactly the image. It's a crystal clear message. This line of discussion doesn't meet my threshold for being productive. It doesn't align with why we're having this conversation. It links right back to that personal manual of communication standards we talked about.
Right.
This strategy lets you save your energy, protect your focus, and stay locked onto only productive discussion. That's huge for efficient business communication. You choose what you engage with and what you just spend. Let pass by. Protects your time, your mental bandwidth, your overall goals. It's a really powerful tool for keeping things strategically clear. Hashtag tag Chatterodro.
Wow. Okay, this has been such an insightful deep dive into really mastering the art of argument defense. It feels genuinely transformative, not just for those heated moments with family or friends, but absolutely critical for high-stakes business communication, where you need that clarity, that control, that professionalism. So let's just quickly recap these main principles one last time, really lock in those key takeaways for everyone listening.
Sounds good. So first, holding your line. Remember, it's very little to do about what you say back directly. It's everything to do about you taking what they've said and kind of spinning it back to them, usually using questions.
Right, those did you mean questions.
Exactly. Did you mean for that to sound rude? Did you intend to leave my name out? Use your breath as your very first response to keep yourself calm, regulated, always staying centered at all times. You deflect their energy, make them own their words instead of just absorbing the hit or punching back.
Okay. And then number 2, redirecting their tone. The key here is maintaining better control of yours. If they escalate to an 11, you consciously, deliberately, maybe even defiantly stay at your 3.
don't chase them up there.
No, don't try to meet them halfway emotionally. Definitely don't try to outshout them. Instead, you draw them towards your calm space. Use those strong boundary phrases, "that's below my standard of respect," or "I'm here to talk, not be talked over," and deliver them calmly, maybe even in a lower voice. You're not controlling them, but you are absolutely signaling your unwavering control over yourself and the rules of engagement.
And finally, strategy 3. Exiting with control. Understand deep down that this is absolutely not a big emotional send-off. It is not weakness. Leaving a conversation when you do it with intention and control can be a position of strength. It protects your safety, your peace of mind, the integrity of the whole interaction. Remember this. It does not mean that you are weak or that you are less in some way because you need to leave the conversation.
So important.
In fact, choosing that controlled exit, that shows huge self-awareness, great emotional intelligence, real strategic strength. You're protecting your integrity and the professionalism of the situation.
What a fantastic set of tools. Seriously powerful. So, for everyone listening, you now have these strategies. You can control yourself in a conversation, defend yourself in an argument without losing your cool, without compromising your integrity, without sacrificing your professional reputation. And these aren't just, clever little tricks to pull out sometimes. They represent fundamental shifts in how you actually approach communication. They empower you in every part of your life, really. From tricky personal relationships right through to those high-stakes business environments. Mastering these skills, it doesn't just change how you respond, it changes your ability to proactively shape positive outcomes in your communication.
Absolutely. That mindset shift can have a profound impact on your confidence, how others perceive your authority, your overall effectiveness. It lets you navigate even the really complex professional dialogues with more clarity, much greater impact, and just unwavering composure. It really is about taking command of your communication destiny.
So the next time you feel that heat rising in an argument, you hear the words starting to fly, you feel that primal urge to just hit back. Remember, the most powerful comeback, it might not be a word at all. It's a deliberate, conscious choice. What will your choice be?
Professional space, really. How to actually defend yourself effectively in an argument.
Right, and maybe forget what you think that means, like winning a debate.
Exactly.
Our mission today, looking at some really insightful sources, is to find these powerful, controlled ways to handle tough conversations. With poise, turning those clashes into something, well, clearer, more respectful.
Yeah, redefining what a good defense even looks like, especially at work.
Okay, so let's dive in. When we say defend yourself, I think most people jump to, the perfect comeback. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
That zinger that just floors the other person.
Yeah.
But the research we looked at is pretty clear. That's not it. It's not about hitting back verbally or, flying off the handle.
No, not at all. And what's really interesting is this analogy that came up, comparing it to martial arts or even boxing.
Oh, okay. How so?
Well, it's not about throwing punches, the offensive moves. It's much more about redirecting their force, responding, but with control.
Like water, maybe? Or, a boxer staying tight, centered.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You block what's unfair, maybe absorb what little might be useful, but you let the rest just flow past you instead of opening yourself up with this big emotional reaction.
Because that just wastes energy,
Yeah.
right? And can make you look less professional, leaves you vulnerable.
Exactly. So, okay, if it's not about striking back, how do we stay centered? How do we hold our line when things get tense?
The first step our sources point to is, maybe surprisingly, simple. It starts with your breath.
Absolutely. Taking that conscious breath, it gives you an immediate sense of control, helps regulate the emotion, but it also does something else. It creates this tiny pause.
The pause for them, too.
Yeah, it gives the other person a beat, a chance perhaps to regulate their emotions a little. The advice was literally, let your breath be the first word that you say.
Okay, so breathe first, then what? Instead of that comeback.
Use questions. Use questions to stay centered. So if someone says something pretty rude, instead of firing back, try asking something like, did you mean for that to sound rude?
Or, how do you feel when you say that to me? That takes guts, though.
It does, but it's like that be like water idea again. It reflects their words back without you having to carry that negative weight. It forces them to think, maybe even clarify or reconsider.
Puts the ball back in their court gently.
Right. And the third part of holding your line is controlling the pace. You actually don't have to respond right away.
Like resist that urge for an instant reply.
Exactly. Take your time, 5 seconds, maybe even 10. One source suggested counting, 3 Mississippi in your head. You decide when you respond, or even if you respond at all.
Okay, so hold your line. Breathe, ask questions, control the pace. But what if their tone is still escalating? How do you stop yourself getting dragged into that?
That's step 2. You need to actively redirect their tone, not just mirror it back.
Okay.
One really effective way is to point to your rule or standard, using phrases like, that's below my standard for response.
Or, that's below my standard of respect. Wow, that sounds quite assertive.
It is, but it works. It establishes your credibility, your control. You're basically saying, I operate by this code, not by reacting emotionally. It shows real professionalism.
Like you have your own internal rule book.
Kinda. You become the bouncer for your own peace of mind.
Yeah.
Using words like, I don't accept that, or I don't permit that kind of language. You set the terms. You're not asking permission.
Okay, I see. And what about when they're really yelling, like up at an 11?
You make a point of staying at your 3. You consciously lower your voice, slow down your speech, calmly saying something like, I am here to talk, not to be talked over. It sends a clear signal.
That their volume isn't intimidating you.
Right. It often makes them de-escalate because they aren't getting the fight they might have been expecting. Other quick phrases could be, are we arguing now? Or I'll respond to your words, not your behavior.
Pulling it back to the substance.
Exactly. Keeping it constructive.
But sometimes you just need to get out of there, right? Even with all these tools.
Absolutely. And that's the 3rd step. Exit with control. This isn't about being weak. It's actually a position of strength, setting a boundary.
So first, you need to actually claim your exit.
Yes. State your intention clearly, calmly. I need to leave this conversation now, and then you follow through. No big dramatic storm off.
Just a clear statement and action. Maintains your dignity. What if it's becoming a real shouting match?
Then postpone it. If things are getting out of control for both sides, suggest a break. I'm willing to come back to this later, or can we pause this for an hour?
And often they might want that break too.
Very often, yes. It allows for a mutual cooling off period. And finally, a really strong way to exit is just declaring, I'm not going there.
When is that best used?
Particularly useful if you feel someone is trying to bait you, maybe pull you into gossip or unproductive personal attacks. It's a firm boundary. Nope, not engaging on those terms.
Okay, so this whole approach, it really shifts the focus.
It does. Defending yourself, especially in professional settings, it stops being about winning the argument. It becomes about maintaining your own control, your composure, your centeredness.
It's more like a strategic dance than a messy brawl.
Well put. And these skills, they're just invaluable, not just for arguments, but think about high-stakes meetings, negotiations, even difficult feedback sessions.
So thinking about all this, what really stands out to you, listening right now? Maybe consider how just one tactic, maybe taking that breath or asking, did you mean that?
Yeah.
Could change your next tricky conversation.
Yeah, what could shift for you if you consistently practice this kind of controlled strategic communication? Something to think about.